So, the first thing we did was hire me an assistant, a young, mid-20s Mexican young man. And he and I started doing informal, qualitative, grassroots market research. We started calling on the various associations and organizations in the Triangle, Research Triangle Park, that were set up to assist Mexican immigrants in their acclimation into the community, and we went and listened to them and talked to them about what we intended to do. We went to the Catholic churches that had growing Mexican populations as part of their parishioners, and we asked them their questions about serving the Mexican immigrant community and listened to their answers carefully. And what was most effective for us, because they were going to be part of our distribution channel, is we went to the owners of the small Mexican markets, the mercados, and asked them about our program. And we listened carefully, we brought our ideas to them, we listened carefully. And what really excited me about this opportunity was that I had only been teaching at Duke at this point for a year or two, and it was when I started teaching at Duke that I became mindful, that I became conscious of how I had been an entrepreneur. I had been a storyteller as an entrepreneur, whether I was the founder of the company, whether I was a marketing strategist for the company, whether I was a CEO. I found that subconsciously, maybe even intuitively, I would approach creative opportunities as if I was building a story. Well, again, I had just become mindful of that as I started teaching at Duke, as I was looking at my career so I could share my career with my students, and as I was looking at my career, I came to that realization that all Nordgren had ever been was a storyteller for every organization that he was a part of. And so this was, with this company, with this opportunity, the first time that I was going to be mindful and intentional about building a story and really considering the craft of storytelling and bringing not only my instinct to it, but my plan and my design to it. And so what we set about doing was creating that story that would serve us as we developed this opportunity. And I was delighted to discover that once we had the right story in place, and here's what our storyline was, not just that we were building a cellular company for the Mexican immigrant community, but that we were building a cellular company for heroes who happened to be members of the Mexican immigrant community. Heroic in the sense, as I mentioned earlier, that these were young men, mostly young men, some women, who had taken on a task that I couldn't do. I couldn't leave the United States and go to a country where I don't speak the language and figure out a way to earn my income, to earn a living. I don't think I've got the capability of doing that. I don't think I have the courage to do that. But these men were capable of doing that, and that was heroic, especially again when their motivation was to earn money to send back home. I saw them as the Horatio Alger story of our generation. If you know who Horatio Alger is, you know that he's a man who wrote 100 novels, a bunch of novels, during that wonderful, that wave of immigration from European countries. And his stories were the rags to riches stories about how an Irishman or a German or one of these, again, European immigrants would arrive in New York in tatters and rags, but because of his pluck, because of his determination, because of his hard work and discipline, he was able to raise himself to a point of success. It was a rags to riches story. And I saw these Mexican immigrants as this generation's Horatio Alger story, and we declared that who they were heroes. So our story was that we were going to build a cellular company to serve heroes. And those heroes happened to be Mexican immigrants, and it was a story that as soon as we saw that main storyline, it was quite apparent what it was we needed to do. The story told us. We told the story, and then the story told us what to do to make the story true. For instance, of course, you would use the Spanish language in all of your marketing and all of your customer service, so we declared that we would only hire customer service people who spoke Spanish, and preferably Mexican people who spoke the Mexican iteration of Spanish, the colloquialisms of the Mexican version of Spanish. All of the text messaging, all the graphics packages that would get sent to them on their cellular phone, that would all be in Spanish. Again, sort of obvious. You don't need a big, bold story to figure out that if you're going to market to the Mexican community. But here's some additional things that we did. Because the technology allowed us to distribute the phones anywhere we could distribute the phones, of course we wanted to distribute them through Mercado owners, the owners of the small grocery stores from the Mexican community. So we went to them and we talked to them about our program, and we listened carefully about their insights into the marketing of cellular phones to their constituents. And we found that they were quite excited about this. And so we developed a box in which the cellular phone was going to be placed. And that box was going to give us all this wonderful storytelling medium. We could put wonderful pictures on the box of young Mexican couples delighted with their life, of hardworking men, of hardworking women. We could tell the hero story on the box. We could also, of course, tell the specifics, the operational information on the box as well.